Welcome to the Sciarone Salon, where I, Tasha Sciarone, an art historian and elder sister, attempt to explain art and philosophy without fighting to my younger adult sisters. I'm Tasha.
I'm Monica.
And today I'm dragging my sister Monica into the deep end of Tolstoy, Croce, and Collingwood's mind. Monica, are you ready to have your worldview shattered?
I guess I have to be ready. I heard you say a few names and I do not know about them, so I'm excited to learn something. Okay, let's check our worldviews.
Yeah, because what do you think of when you hear expression theory?
So first, like if you just have the word expression on itself, what do I think about? It's what you feel inside, you already put it out. So if it's through I'm expressing through my voice, or I'm expressing through creativity, or I'm expressing through a show, or just bringing the inside to the outside. And then theory, and then
Well, actually, let me just stop you there. That's exactly what we're going to talk about the whole time. Is like expression theory isn't per se expressionism, but it is about taking an emotion from the inside of the artist and putting it to the outside.
Okay.
Which I mean is logical, so we can just end the episode right there. But Monica, did you know that the biggest champion of expression theory was the Russian novelist Leo Tolstoy? But according to the way he looked at art, he didn't actually believe any of his own work, or Beethoven, or Shakespeare, or that actually any art created up until his time was actually considered good art because of his weird three criteria. So even his own deeply complicated literature, like Anna Karenina, he's like, no, this isn't art. I failed as a novelist, as an artist, because I wasn't able to fulfill the criteria that we're going to discuss now.
That kind of feels a little bit sad, but I do understand as an artist that the value you put for your work, even though if it's good, you don't feel like it's good enough. And I feel like a lot of artists struggle also with the part like, is my work good enough? Is it even seen as, because art can be very, very vulnerable, even though if you express yourself, that's going through in your inner world and you're expressing it out to the outer world. It's difficult as an artist to actually know what is good and what is not good. So I kind of like empathize with this artist. But no, I did not know.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild take, but like you said, it's something a lot of people that consider themselves artists might struggle with. So it's not just from the 17th and 18th century, this feeling, it's still now. So we're used to thinking about art as skillfully made objects, a beautiful painting, a technically perfect sculpture, but expression theory flips that entire idea on its head. We have like two main characters in our expression theory drama today. The first is Leo Tolstoy, the War and Peace guy. He was a monumental Russian novelist in the 1800s who in later life had a spiritual crisis and started judging everything, including art, by its moral and emotional utility. Monica, what's your initial impression of a famous artist deciding that his most famous art is actually bad?
I understand or empathize like with not feeling like your work is good enough. But like you said, this artist, he started questioning everything. It seems only natural that he starts questioning and deciding that his work is actually bad. It feels like he was very hard on himself and with the world around him. But how other people perceive your work is not initially the same as how you feel about it. So it can still be good. And even though you feel like it's not good enough, I feel like you can go to like the deep ending from your own value, how hard you are on yourself and on your work and the world around you. It's quite vulnerable if you do express yourself and put your work out in the world. It's very, very vulnerable. So I understand it, but I do feel like there can be a sense of more softening in the approach of how you look at your work. Because sometimes you just create for creating, and it doesn't really matter if it's good enough or if it's not good enough. I already took the step to create as well, and I feel like that's already like a beautiful. That's all. It can be already enough. But this is from a more of a softer approach.
But that is very nice to have that type of soft approach, because I also see that with other artists that I work with. Sometimes paintings only get sold like years after they have made it, but the artist keeps growing and they don't sometimes recognize that artwork, or like maybe in his case, his best literature, as someone who he is right now in his life. So it's just like saying, I reject the system I mastered, you can say, or you can be like, oh, I've grown as a person away from this and I have other theories or ideas of what makes good art. That was just a moment for me in my life of what I then understood to be good and better. But okay, now our other key figures is the Italian Benedetto Croce and Robin George Collingwood. Their theory is so intertwined, experts call it the Croce Collingwood theory, or the CC theory for short. Croce was an Italian philosopher and interestingly a politician who initially supported Mussolini before he became a staunch anti-fascist. But both were obsessed with history and the human spirit. What if art isn't about the physical object at all? What if art is about the internal expression of the artist's emotion and intuition? So let's break this down. We're moving in expression theory away from the ancient idea of mimesis, that art is an imitation of reality, to expression theory. The accent is no longer on the object being depicted, but on the subject, the artist. The central relationship is no longer the artwork in reality, between the artist and the artwork. So the goal is no longer to show us what a tree looks like, but to make us feel what the artist felt about the tree. This is why we love art that moves us. A perfect photorealistic drawing of a tree might be impressive, but if it doesn't evoke emotion, is it really art from this viewpoint?
Okay, so I feel like art has different categories. So like if you just literally draw a tree, like for symbolizing this is a tree, I feel that takes a lot of like skill set, but it's also, I feel like, important in the craft of creating. But also if you can even put it on a deeper layer, because feeling is not always something that we can see, because you can see an expressive if somebody's crying or somebody's mad, but the feeling is also, you feel it. You feel it in your body, and the way you can bring that sense of feeling. So let's say you're looking at this tree, I'm the artist, I am observing this tree, but this tree feels so majestic, and it's a kind of like nourishing feeling I get by sitting or looking at, observing at this tree, and this sense of awe and majesty. How do you put that feeling that I feel internally and put it on canvas? Or I think where the form of expression then comes through, like, without thinking too much in the mind, with the skill set, because you need the skill set also to create. It's not always the main focus. So I feel as an artist, being able to put that feeling you get, and that the other person can perceive that back through the artwork that you've created.
You said you didn't know who Collingwood or Croce was, because this is actually what you're saying now completely encompasses what they did in long philosophical texts about that. Okay, the artist needs to remember the emotion, then articulate the emotion. But you're also saying technical skill is also important, because Collingwood and Croce says, like, no, it doesn't matter, like, if you have no technical expertise, it's more important what's in the artist's brain. So I really like that you've already, like, well, I mean, we're obviously already 100 years later after the expression theory of Collingwood, and even 200-300 years, 250 years after Tolstoy too. I can't do math. That's why I became an art historian. I'm so sorry.
Like, that is my personal approach, because I have struggled because I have played like more of an abstract way of just without thinking and just creating, and then I'm just like, this is so weird. This artwork's so weird. So maybe this is my own, like, what is a good work and what is not a good work. And then I have heard like people, like, without me putting in the skill that I haven't honed yet, like for instance, like I have to do really craft, like practice doing hands. Yeah, no, I had to practice that. It's just part of the craft. So any craft you do, like, it's practice. And then I feel like when you build from that and you understand, like, it gets like in your memory. You don't have to think, and you can just like play. I really like to play by creating and also like working intuitively. But I do feel like the skill set, and it makes it even more stronger.
Yeah, no, that's completely true, because that was one of the biggest critique of expression theory as we went away from Mimesis. So I'm going to go what Tolstoy's rule was for good art. Good art had 3 criteria. First, it has to be made with the expressed desire to infect people with a specific emotion. Second, it was to actually succeed in evoking that exact emotion in its audience. And thirdly, by experiencing this emotion, the larger public had to be morally uplifted by experiencing this emotion.
Okay.
And so this, according to Tolstoy, actually Charles Dickens, The Christmas Carol was like the perfect artwork created.
First of all, being able to, have the idea. I have my audience, and I want my audience to feel this specific way, an emotion. And I feel like it's very, very powerful if the artist or the creator of the movie or whatever the art form is, that they succeed in that. I feel like that's very, very powerful, and they understand actually what that feeling is. Because sometimes to understand a feeling, you really have to deep dive and understand that emotion, and then bring it in the forefront and allow your audience to go through with that. I feel like that's, first of all, I feel like that's very, very powerful if you succeed as an artist like that.
The second part was actually succeeding with, and the
well,
third
like,
one is moral upliftment.
Moral upliftment. I feel like that's even more stronger, more powerful if you take your audience through a story, and through the emotion, through the story, and where there's something they can gain something more positivity that they can take through with their life. I also had with Bianca, one of our younger sisters, and she said something about movies, because this is the first time, like, in our generation, we've been watching so many we've got so many movies and entertainment. But it's actually can be like a really good thing, because we now, as a human race, that we can go through all the different stories that we watch. We can go and live through the story, through the movie, or through the story, and then we can gain different perspectives out of our lives. So like with a lot of stories, you can get like morals and things, and you can take it with you. Like, and so you go through situations where you normally wouldn't go through normal day-to-day life, but you get an understanding like, oh, in a situation like this, that's not okay. So yeah, if you can get like a moral through with a story or with your artwork, I also feel like that's really, really powerful. And I also see like people that I know from internationally, like from different continents, that also have the same stories, that we can connect and understand in different ways.
I think this is the most positive way to see it, that through art,
What kind of way?
the art that's created in films, literature, helps us experience a wide variety of narratives, a wide variety of feelings, and then if you add the moralization, that it's this is the most positive aspect. But you could also just say like some art is created as propaganda. So if you understand, psychology and stuff like that, you can also create. And then the question is it art or not? But according to Tolstoy, then propaganda is also art. And it's also whose morals are being imbued. Because you might have a very positive and a bit moral compass. But I always make the joke when one of you says something about your fiber billionaires. I'm always like, there's no such thing as an ethical billionaire. But they do make powerful art sometimes.
Yeah, that's also, I guess, like why it's good that they also put on education, like critical thinking. There's still propaganda going through, and we're being bombarded by advertisements and the consumption culture. I'm living a bit under a rock because I've like blocked all those stuff for years.
No, like you're saying exactly, like advertisements, they try to attempt to create a need, and that you need to satisfy that need now. So according to the definition, there's a little bit of a hole, because I can also imagine that listeners will get angry if I say D-tier Christmas movies are the pinnacle of art. But then, according to Tolstoy, then also propaganda or advertisements are then... Okay, so let's contrast what we learned about Tolstoy. And Tolstoy is like, you have an emotion.
Okay.
You put the emotion down. People are morally uplifted by the creation of this emotion, right? So let's contrast this with the Croce and Collingwood. They go even further. They believe the artwork itself exists first in the mind of the artist. So that's actually just like, also sort of like Plato saying like the ideal cup is first the idea of a cup. And then for the crafter creates a cup, and then it's a second degree from the ideal of the cup. So they're still like, in your mind is the best version of what art can ever be. Just like Plato said, like in your mind, that is where the original idea exists. And that's where they're coming from. Then Croce and Collingwood also says that the physical painting or song doesn't even need to be created or be good for it to exist as art. That art is only internal expression.
Well,
I mean, but that's where you might get a lot of like...
This is going against what we talked about in the previous episode together, about like art. We were talking about art philosophy and art critique, and the philosophy was about that art is art when it's actually shown to the world, even though if it's created, the idea and whatever is created, but if it's not shown to the audience, is it really art? So back also like, when a tree falls in the forest, nobody witnessed it. Is it really art?
Yeah, and now they're saying like, no, how it exists in the mind of the artist is the artwork.
This was Collingwood.
Yeah, the Collingwood and Croce, the CC theory. They even called it like a war dance before a battle, a form of magic, not as a superstition, but as a practical art whose purpose is to evoke a specific, useful, emotional state in the community. But like, how can you create it? And that was like the critique, like, how can you create something that people can't actually experience? So it means like our subjective experience, our knowledge, our culture, that's our paradigm. The CC theory suggests that to truly get an artwork, we all need to access the same paradigm. We have to come from the same emotional and intuitive space that the artist was in when they created it. So you really have to step into the shoes, like imagine, you just lost your mother, you just went through a famine, and you really wanted to, you have to, for the audience to get the art, they have to step into the same exact mental and emotional framework as the artist. So Monica, if the art is truly in the mind of the artist and we can never fully step into their mind, does that mean that we can never truly experience their art? How does that sit with you?
Okay, first of all, I want to react to if you as an artist can actually allow the person, the audience, to go through the exact emotion or the understanding through it. I'm going to react the same. I feel like that's very, very powerful. And I feel like that is really, really great craftsmanship, great if you really want to allow them to go through the whole experience. So it goes through the whole process, and we like if you just look at emotions as like as waves, like the ocean, you know.
Yeah.
Some of them are big and chaotic and crazy and like very very intense, and some are like just like very relaxing on the beach, you know, and
Definitely waves.
soft. So it's like emotions, they come and go. So it's not like they fully have to like, I'm this emotion, this is exactly how I am. But if you can allow them, if you can allow the whole waves of experience that you've gone through your internal world, and being able to allow the audience or the other person to go through that whole experience, like going through the experience of the
Safely,
emotion safely, because also actually in a healthy way to process emotions, you need to actually go through it. You don't have to actually be consumed by the storm of the ocean, but just allow safely, or like just to process through it. I feel like it can also be like quite therapeutic as well, in the sense after you can craft that experience through your artwork. I feel like that is I think that's amazing, and it's something that I would love to be able to allow myself to safely guide people through a beautiful experience, even though if it's intense or not.
Which medium do you think lends itself to the best? Because this catharsis you're talking about, like safely experiencing emotion, you know, and being guided through it, that's what happens in a lot of Christmas movies.
Yeah, so movies does it, but I want to say with writing actually.
Yeah.
I've heard also a lot of people having stories like they will read a book, they will be so into the story, and they will process it like what is going on there, and then there will be a movie that would have been made out of that book, and the experience for the reader and the viewer is completely different, and you will always hear that the book is better than the story. Because you go through your own emotion, you go through your own mind, the story, you go read through the story, and then you process it internally as well with your own visions, and where you can connect with the characters and their story. So I feel like writing, because it also gives a window of your own experience and your own filling in the gaps of where the story in a movie, you also go through the process, but the vision is brought to you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. This theory validates abstract art like Kandinsky and the Blaue Reiter group, who were trying to paint music and emotion directly into emotion and motion directly into the canvas. It's not a mimesis of reality, like an imitation of reality, but a mimesis and imitation of the inner reality, like of dreams and emotions. Now for the fun part, tearing it all down. Let's start with Tolstoy. His first problem, he downplays skills. Not everyone can successfully transmit their emotions through a medium. You need technical knowledge to make people feel what you feel. Second, and that's already what you said yourself,
you need tool sets to be able to do something, because you can have like an idea in your mind, but if you don't have the tools to create, like, I mean, let's just make a simple gesture. Okay, I want to create a frame for a photo or for this painting. Like, if I don't have a tool set to create that, I mean, I can be creative and like fix something off, but so then you have like, sometimes you have trial and error, but you're trying and then you'll fix it and then you'll do it a better way. But you need tool sets to be able to create anything as simple as a table.
Yeah, and that's also why, you know, people are like, oh, AI is democratizing art. It's like, no, it's important to actually practice your skill set.
Yeah.
Second, the contagious emotion idea is actually dangerous. We already got into it, like, you know, that can also be used for propaganda. Not everyone has, you know, the same moralizing feelings. You know, we can also then, you know, create ads that evoke an emotion that makes you feel something, that makes you go into action to feel something. Yep. So, like a demagogue whipping a crowd into a frenzy is also spreading a contagious emotion. Does that make it good art? And third, the moral uplift clause is a problem. Morals change. Is an artwork great in one decade and bad in the next because society's morals shifted? Tolstoy's own standard led him to dismiss almost all classical art, from Michelangelo to Mozart. The CC theory, it has one bigger issue. The main one is, if art only exists in the artist's mind, how can we ever know it exists? It gives the artist total carte blanche. Oh, the idea for my sculpture was brilliant, even if the actual thing looks like a lump of clay. It completely neglects the need for a medium for communication. Our mental images are so vivid, like we already discussed, but turning them into something tangible always dilutes it. And finally, the original hermeneutical paradigm they were working from assumed that we could all arrive at the same interpretation if we tried hard enough. But modern thought, especially after the First and Second World War, embraces diversity of interpretation. Your experience of a painting will be completely different to mine, and that's okay. Expression theory in its original form can be rather rigid and conformist, which is logical as seeing in the time frame that it was born in. Well, it was like still born in the interbellum periods and before that. But we've moved away. Like, even Monica, as an intuitive artist, has already like internalized this expression theory already. looked at, okay, the main critiques of it. No, we have to have technique, we have to have mastery, we have to all the things that the original expression theory said, like, no, you don't need to, be good at making music to make music that really moves people, because the audience just has to try hard enough. Okay, so we want to hear from you, our listener. Our questions for the audience is expression theory more relevant than ever or completely obsolete? Does this actually legitimize AI art? That it's, yeah. What are your feelings about this? Is true expression of intuition, or is it just a performance? Let us know what you think and send us an email to the Sciarone Salon at gmail.com, and we'll read your responses in our final episode. The Sciarone Salon is and then Sciarone, Sciarone, and then Salon, Salon, at gmail.com. Thank you guys for listening.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed this episode. Thank you, Sasha. I hope you guys also enjoyed this episode, and I hope you also are thinking, what's the expression theory? If something you can use in your own daily life is like expressing how you dress, express how you make your food.